What a time, what a time, what a time to be alive if you are a character action fan. I, I don't care if you are a devil hunter, if you're a master ninja, or if you're a umber witch. Raise a toast, man. Raise a fucking toast because, man, it is so great that character action games are back, baby. They're getting the spotlight that they fucking deserve, bros. Like, I'm so happy, man. Recently there was a state of play, and the state of play was kind of mid as fuck. And originally I was gonna talk about it, but I didn't want to talk about it. But there were two games that came out of the state of play that was like, holy shit, we gotta talk about it. Which was Lost Soul Aside, Ties of Annihilation. Oh my goodness. And when I saw this game, my face just went from the most saddest, depressing fucking state of play face you'll ever see to the most heartwarming smile, cheesing so hard because these are the type of games I've been waiting for to come back in full force. And with this announcement, Ninja Gaiden 4 on the way, and apparently a rumor or a leak is that Devil May Cry 1 is getting a remake or 3 is getting a remake. I couldn't be more happier, and it made me realize that the character action genre that I love so much is kind of getting a renaissance. So for this video, I kind of wanted to break down to me what is the core fundamentals of a character action game, what led to the downfall of character action games, and why ultimately these games mean so much to me. So let's just get straight into it. So to really talk about character action games, we really gotta determine like what is a character action game, because there's many names for this shit that I just realized. There's spectacle fighter, there's hack and slash, there's style 'em up, there's what I like to call hack and style. There's so many different names that goes into like character action, but for the sake of this video, we're just gonna call it character actions. But to determine what is or what makes a good character action game, I am gonna give my core pillars of what to me is a good character action game. That would be combat depth. I believe like what makes a good character action game is its combat depth, in the sense of having multiple weapons or arsenals at your disposal and that you can use anytime you want to exceed your combat potential, whether that be through also advanced techniques like a jump cancel or a parry, perfect parry, just unlimited amounts of answers to a situation, to a combat situation. That to me is what makes a combat system of a character action game really flow and really speaks to a lot of character action fanatics like myself. Another thing that makes a character action game like really fucking compelling or really good is the mastery of combat system. The game really incentivizes you to push yourself to master the combat system in a variety of ways, whether that be in a slight way of a style meter like in Devil May Cry. As you keep hitting the enemy, you get different rankings for each time you hit the enemy, up until the point where you get to SSS. Or with Ninja Gaiden, it's how many hits did you did, and if you keep going and you keep going, you get bigger, bigger, and bigger cash out of souls in the level. Bayonetta also has that with the Halo coins. The original God of War trilogy, the higher amounts of hits that you have, the more orbs you can multiply and get. These are the quintessential of like encouraging the player for mastery, and at the end of each section of a game, for the most part, scores you on how you did throughout that run. Whether you didn't take any hits, how fast you completed the run, did you use items, did you not use items, did you die, or you are penalized for those stuff, or did you use like a super special character, you are penalized for that stuff and your ranking will go down. That to me is what makes a character action game really special and really unique and cool. Another thing that makes a character action game to me the quintessential kind of action game is being extremely fast paced. Like the game wants you to constantly keep moving, keep going, look cool, but also compete everything in a timely format. Whether that be when you beat the game or whatnot, you beat the level at a certain amount of time, or whether you have mechanics such as a dash, or you can flip and dip out of moves really quickly, cancel moves really quickly, just moving extremely fast. I think a perfect example would be, again, as a Devil May Cry fan, Nero's Devil Bringer. He can pull in enemies to him to gain the advantage, but also if the enemy is big, he can grab himself to the enemy. Also, for Ryu Hayabusa in the Ninja Gaiden games, he can flip and jump off of enemies really fast, and the game just wants you to keep going extremely fast. The pacing of a character action game also is important. Some and most character action games, for the most part, games are not long. And this is going to lead into my next thing, is that they have a very arcade feeling. As that you're going into every section of the game, beating it at a certain time, and then moving on to the next part, until you get to a boss that really challenges your mechanics or your understanding of the mechanics, and then pushes through. You push through. Constantly pushing through. And it's like almost like an arcade style way of playing. And that's because a lot of these character action games, especially like the early times of them, were made from arcade gamers or arcade developers. So it made sense why some of the level designing and whatnot were really confound into this really arcade way. But I think the last, and to me the most important thing of what makes a character action game is its difficulty. I'm not talking about a Souls game where it just starts you off with mad difficulty and just constantly kicks your ass. No. To quote a really good YouTuber by the name of Electric Underground, shout outs to him, he said something that is to me very, very poignant, is that character action games, difficulty is content. And I truly believe that as well. Difficulty pushes you to actually understand the mechanics, deepen the mechanics, and not rely on certain gimmicks or tools to help you win. Because now you have to understand the flow of the battle and what does it mean. So probably on an easier difficulty, you can probably get away with doing the same move over and over again because the AI is not pushing you enough. But on higher difficulties, especially if you're playing a game like a Devil May Cry, Dante Must Die mode changes the enemy placement, and now even more so pushes you to finish the battle even faster, because certain enemies can now go into Devil Trigger where certain moves don't affect them anymore, or they don't flinch as much as they once did, or they pop out new moves that you've never seen before because you played it probably on a lower difficulty. There's so many different variables, but difficulty is the crucial part of a character action game. With all that being said, I think to answer the question, what killed ultimately the character action genre was because of oversaturation. Back in the early 2000s, there were so many great character action games out, but the level of quality was so inconsistent. You would get something such as so amazing like Devil May Cry, or like Ninja Gaiden, or maybe even a Bayonetta, but then you'll get some real like questionable stinkers that were just like, what the fuck is this? Or it doesn't have the mechanical depths that I just mentioned, or they're kind of close to the mechanical depths, but it's still not good enough. And overall, it just led to the downfall of it. And also, it didn't help that some of the bigger character action games kind of was chasing trends. Look, for instance, DMC Devil May Cry really was completely not what the fans wanted. Despite really having all those mechanical depths I mentioned, it just wasn't what the Devil May Cry community was wanting. And then when you come on to Ninja Gaiden 3 was a complete misstep in every single direction because it tried to focus so heavily on storytelling that it forgot some of the core fundamentals of what makes a Ninja Gaiden game such a great Ninja Gaiden game, that it ultimately hurt the genre. So again, there were many character action games that were fun and was interesting back in the day, but they just were not really meeting that quality level that Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, and Bayonetta, and so others, few that were high up on my list, didn't reach. But I think the killing, the death blow, the Grim Reaper of it all was literally Souls games. Souls games came out and literally took over the whole gaming industry. A lot of people kept talking about how difficult these games are, how very difficult these games are, but they're very simplistic, unlike a character action game. Character action games, if you're playing them on normal or on easy, if you're playing them on easy, you're pretty much going to have an easy time. There's not going to be any pushback. But when you get higher up in the difficulty, the game requires a lot of fucking homework and just layers of knowledge in order to win. It gets to the point where you're almost playing a fighting game. And that's why ultimately I like character action games, because they're kind of like fighting games in a lot of ways. But for a lot of people, some people find fighting games way too hard to get into because they're just so complex. There's so many different layers to them that they're so complex. But here comes the Soul game, where it's punishing like a character action game, but it's almost, you're playing a dance that you can always know how the dance is played if you keep practicing and keep going. Unlike a character action game, which requires you to do tons of homework and tons of knowledge, Souls game just requires you to push through and know the dance. And those were the key foundations which ultimately destroyed the character action games genre. But to me, they will always have a special place in my heart, because of the many reasons why I love character action games. Is because, like I said earlier in the video, character action games are like fighting games. They both have strings and characters that can perform high octane moves, specials, and just a lot of strings and combos that go into one another. Hell, you look at a lot of character action games, their moves list is insane, just like a fighting game. But, you know, there's also the little minute little detail stuff like frame advantage and plus frames and hitbox and hit stun and which move is plus on advantage or negative. That all is in a character action game. And as a person who loves fighting games and character action games as well, I definitely appreciate that a lot, because you could definitely then, like in a fighting game, come up with your own combos and your own strings based off of the tools you have. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be optimal or the fastest or the most proficient way to get out or defeat a area or a boss, but however, that's the beauty of fighting games and also character action games, that they both allow the player to basically be and play however they want. They never punish you for playing the game how you want. So if you want to play a Shoto character and have him just throw out fireballs 24/7, well, as long as you know the plus frames and when is the right or the wrong time to use nothing but fireballs, Hadoukens, and shit all day long, you can. But if you want to be more methodical and whatnot of your approach, you can, and then you can freestyle as much as you can. I think another prime example would be basically like listening or dancing to music. On a surface level, if I want to just nod my head to a dance or to a music, I can nod my head, get groove into the music. But if I raise up the difficulty or I want to master the boss, I can go and, like a Souls game, tango with the boss and learn how it plays and do the dance the way how the boss wants me to do the dance. But on a higher skill ceiling, and once I understand the mechanics and whatnot, I can go and literally do my own dance, do my own flips and dips and dance to the point where the boss doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. And that's what makes it so cool. And unlike a Souls game, you can go into all of the three of these modes at any time you want. At a Souls game, you can only go through maybe one or two at any point. With a fucking character action game, you can do at any time you want. And that is what makes them so incredibly good. And why I've always been a fan of them. They're so fun. They're so enjoyable. And I think the number one critical reason why I love character action games was because, in a lot of ways, they were power fantasy. You know, a lot of those character action games that I love, like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, hell, God of War, hell, Ninja Gaiden, all these games all give you the sense of power. Like, you are an unstoppable killing machine. You know that line from fucking Watchmen where Rorschach is like, I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me? Oh my goodness. That's how it feels to play a character action game. Tell me one character or video game where you just feel unstoppable, where you can just launch an enemy in the air, do a bunch of cool aerial combat, slam them back down, do probably a stinger, and then teleport behind them, shoot them up again. Like, tell me, like one video game that does that makes you feel so powerful, you know, that you just feel unstoppable. And you can earn that unstoppableness as you keep going, but on a micro level, even if you're just spamming the same move over and over again, it still feels exciting, it still feels rewarding, and you still feel powerful. You never feel weak, you know. Compare that to like a Resident Evil game. Back when I was younger, I never used to like Resident Evil. Like, sure, I played like Resident Evil 2, OG Resident Evil 2. That was like my first ever Resident Evil game. But I never really beat that game until I got older and beat 4. 4 is the first Resident Evil game I actually beat, the OG 4. And that's because that game felt like an arcade game in a lot of ways. Scary, but arcade style feel to it in terms of the combat scenarios and everything. But I could never really get into Resident Evil until I played Devil May Cry, and particularly 1. 1 has all the camera problems and all the bullshit of Resident Evil games you expect. But the cool thing about Devil May Cry 1 was the power fantasy. You felt like an unstoppable force. That is how you feel going and playing a Devil May Cry game. And that's always something I always loved about character action games. And up to this day, I still love. So for me, hearing and seeing that character action games are coming back with something like Lost Souls Aside, which is more of like a mixture between Final Fantasy 15 and Devil May Cry, is fucking awesome. This was made by one fucking dude, and now he has a whole fucking team supporting him with this, and now it's coming out finally. Is fucking dope. seeing fucking Ninja Gaiden 2 or Ninja Gaiden in general make a comeback with Ninja Gaiden 4 is awesome. And now they're taking the lessons from Ninja Gaiden Yaiba, that weird ass spin-off game, but could actually do it better by having the main protagonist and Ryu Hayabusa have different play styles, even though they're both ninjas, and do different things. That is fucking awesome. That's like Devil May Cry 5 or 4, with how Nero and Dante play completely different. And then you have something like fucking Ties of Annihilation, which is kind of like a Darksiders, but it's got Final Fantasy 16's combat system, which is fucking awesome. You have like the icons, but now they actually show up and they're doing their own little combats, almost like V from Devil May Cry 5. They're doing combos, and then you can go in and do the combos with them, almost like Astral Chain. That's another great character action game that does something cool with the action game genre. And just so much good character action games that's coming out, and is cool. Even something like, and this is probably not even a good example of a character action game, Phantom Blade Zero. That game looks phenomenal. It looks like Metal Gear Revengeance, but with a little bit of a Souls element when it comes on to going through backtracking and going back to areas from what the developers said. And it looks phenomenal, man. It looks phenomenal. So again, character action games will always be my bread and butter, my love. I think truly, again, what makes a character action game so special and so unique is that power fantasy of making you feel like this fucking god, but also by having different difficulties, allowing you to really master and explore the combat system, to push yourself to even be greater than what you originally started out when you first played the game. I truly think this is a great time to be a character action fan, and I can't wait for some of these new character action games. They look phenomenal, they look great, and only time will tell if they truly will quench that character action game thirst. But so far, I'm very pleased on what I'm seeing, and it's great to have them back. With all that being said, I want to thank you for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, please comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what is your most anticipated character action game, and also let me know in the comment section below what is your favorite character action game. Post your comments on below, and as always, this is going to be your boy Mr. Degenerate. I'm signing out. Have a good one, and keep playing some more character action games, bro. Keep playing them.